So in part 3 of Ready to Evacuate today, I am going to talk about your emergency cage. Now, many of you will have the traditional type little rat carrier. This is actually a guinea pig rabbit size, but it's fine for a couple of hours for taking your rats to the vets, but it's absolutely no good if you need to keep your rats in there for several days. Now, we use the Ferplast Mini cage as an emergency cage, and that is fine. But you can't pick it up easily, especially with several rats in. It would need 2 of you. So the only way we could use that is if we asked a friend or a relative who lives in the same town to store the cage for us, or to store a flat pack Savic Xeno 2 cage maybe. Now that's all very well if you can get to that person. If there's someone who lives very close to you and your whole street is evacuated, then that won't really help. So we've been looking at different alternatives. Now this cage, you can get 4 rats in there. It isn't huge, but in an emergency it would do for a couple of days. And bear in mind that, you can only get your rats out if you're in a place of safety. So it really is an emergency cage. And this is the Ferplast Duna cage. Not sure how you say that. But I bought it with no accessories because obviously it's a hamster cage. And you know from my other videos, I'm not a fan of hamster cages. They're too flimsy and lightweight. Quite often the bases are very thin and they don't have very secure clips on them, and the bars are quite thin. Now, there isn't as much ventilation on this cage, although you have got a lovely big open door on the top, which is really good. You have to be a little bit careful how you clip the door in when it comes, because it is plastic, but you have got a nice big opening there and little clips to secure it here. And the good thing about this is if the weather is bad, your rats will not be exposed to colds and drafts through the sides, so you wouldn't need to put an extra house in here. Now, there is the slight problem with the water bottles. Now, what I've had to do, the sippy bottle is recommended for this cage. There's a little slot in this hole in here for this drinking spout to go through. They are quite wobbly, but what I find is with the extra bedding in, which I'm recommending for the emergency cage, that is quite low, and it'd be great for a hamster, but I'm not really sure how a rat would get on with it. Now, you can fit a sippy bottle inside because it comes with these little suction pads, but it is quite wobbly and I'm really not sure. I think the rats are going to knock that off. So, I mean, that is a sippy small. So I think maybe it might be a good idea to actually have some sort of hanging bottle. Now, I know you can get hanging bottles that clip to the wires, and that would be really good, but I just can't find one. So what I'm looking for at the moment is the smaller version of my classic drinking bottle. I really ideally want a bottle that size that has a hanging loop on the top, and then I can simply attach it with one of the cargo net, all fingers and thumbs here, with one of the cargo net clips. I can just simply hook it onto the bars here. So that's what I'm looking for. If anyone knows of a really good hanging bottle, maybe you could let me know, because that is the only problem I've found with this cage. Now, I wouldn't put the food bowl in while we're actually in transit, but you could put some nuggets into the corner of this cage so the rats have got some food to nibble on, because we all know how stressed rats get when they don't have any food. So I'm just going to shut the lid down and just show you. It clips off fairly easily. There's just one clip on each side, and then that will just lift off. So as you can see, you really need to remove the water bottle because you'll just lose the spout there. It will just come falling off if you're not careful. So there we go. And what I've done to prepare this cage is I've put a deep layer of Back to Nature in the bottom. Then I've got a double layer of brown paper. This is from my Back to Nature bag, and I've folded it to fit the cage exactly. You could use any brown paper, as long as it is not wax paper or printed with dyes, unsafe dyes. And then what I've done is put another layer of Back to Nature on top. Now, the rats may well try and dig this out, but the idea is that you've got a nice deep layer, and you can just remove the top layer and leave a clean layer underneath. Now that's the theory. Whether this is going to work in practice, only time will tell, but I'm hoping by completely covering the paper, the rats won't, you know, try and dig it up. And then I'm going to put a lot of fluffed out safe bed in there. You don't need another house, but this will add some warmth for your rats, and it will also give them a little bit of security that they have somewhere to hide. Let's just move all these bottles. There we go. So just a little bit tricky lining it all up. You can do this a lot quicker. It's just me messing about with my water bottles. So that will clip on nice and securely there, and we can secure that at the other side as well. Now what I do is, in my backpack, I've decided to use the 35-litre backpack and get everything into one backpack. I've put a few tea towels in. Now this is really handy for when you're in transit, because you can cover the top. That will protect your fingers if your rats decide to nibble your fingers, and also if it's drafty, it will just protect them from the elements. So the other thing that I'm suggesting is, you know, this is great. You can pick this cage up easily with 2 hands. It is a little bit heavy with the bedding and with 4 rats. But what I'd be concerned about, there is only 2 clips. I wouldn't want the base to come undone. So I've got some luggage straps here, and I'm going to put 2 luggage straps round. This is an ordinary one. And the one I've got on the other side here is actually an elasticated strap. So it's a little bit more stretchy. It's easier to adjust. But I've got one of each because I couldn't decide which was best. And I'm now going to completely secure the cage with that. And now the reason I'm doing this is not just in case the base would come unhooked with your rats jumping about. I think it is a fairly strong base. But I am really concerned that in a rush and a panic, that it could come undone, or you could maybe not have clipped it up properly. So I think this double straps really is going to secure the cage. And the other thing is, if you have to walk downstairs, there's no way it's safe to carry this cage. I mean, you can carry it, but then you have no hands free, even with the backpack on your back. You can't see where the steps are. You could slip and fall and injure yourself and your rats. So with the luggage straps, you can pick this cage up with 1 hand. Now, for me, that would be very difficult because I have the arthritis, but one of my sons could easily carry this, and if you're fit and healthy, it wouldn't be a problem. And if you don't have steps, then it's an easy cage, an easy solution. So that's basically what we're going to do. Now, obviously, you know, you'll just have to have a look at whether this would suit your circumstances or a similar cage. But go for a really good make like a Ferplast or a Savic, because they are stronger, they're non-toxic, and I think this is the best solution for us, because we have cages that are big and heavy. There's no way we could move them. We can't really ask a friend to store several Mary cages for us, and also we need them, you know, as hospital cages and when we're cleaning out. So this is what we're going to use as our emergency cages, and I just hope that gives you a little, you know, a few ideas of how you can set up a cage. I've got spare safe bed paper in my big 35-litre backpack, and if this works with the double layer of the Back to Nature, then it solves your problem of storing, you know, of having to carry extra bedding. And keeping the tea towel on it and keeping everything ready, that means there's no dust or dirt going in, so the cage is ready to use. So you've just got to make sure that your food is fresh in your actual backpack for the rats. And it doesn't take up too much space to store. And I would suggest that you keep this cage in your rat room, because you won't want to be having to go and find the cage and then move it to the rat room. You want it near your rats and your backpack near your exit door. So in part 4, which is now, this is extended to a 4-part series, I'm going to talk a bit more about your actual evacuation plan.